The Forgotten Morning. Captain Thyros adjusted his breathing apparatus as his ship descended through the atmosphere of Kepler 442 bits, a world that had once been called New Eden by its human colonists. The Zephyrian explorer had seen many abandoned worlds in his 40 cycles of service, but something about this place felt different. The cities below were intact, their structures gleaming in the pale sunlight, yet no life signs registered on any of their sensors. "Captain, I'm detecting power signatures throughout the settlement," reported his navigation officer, HFY. The young Altarian's crystalline features flickered with confusion. "The entire colony appears to be operational, but completely empty." Thyros nodded grimly. This was the 7th human world they had investigated in the past month, and each one told the same impossible story. The humans had simply vanished, leaving behind thriving colonies that continued to function as if their creators had stepped away for a brief moment and never returned. The Galactic Trade Assembly had commissioned this expedition after trade routes through former human space had been declared safe for the first time in 3 centuries. Humanity had withdrawn from galactic affairs so completely that most younger species had begun to treat them as a myth, a cautionary tale about a species that had reached too far too fast and burned out like a dying star. "Take us down to the central plaza," Thyros ordered. "Full environmental suits. We don't know what we're walking into." As their shuttle touched down on the perfectly maintained landing pad, Thyros couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The sensation had grown stronger with each human world they had visited, as if invisible eyes were cataloging their every movement. Dr. Kalinda Voss was waiting for them at the colony's research center, exactly where the assembly's records indicated she would be. The human xenobiologist was the last of her kind known to be living in galactic space, having chosen to remain behind when her species retreated to their home system centuries ago. "Captain Thyros," she greeted him, her weathered face showing the strain of 300 years of isolation. "I've been expecting you." "Dr. Voss," Thyros replied, removing his helmet in the colony's perfectly regulated atmosphere. "The Assembly sent us to investigate the status of human colonies in this sector. Can you explain what happened here?" Kalinda's expression grew somber as she led them through the empty streets. Shops stood ready for customers who would never come, schools equipped for children who had never been born, homes prepared for families that existed only in memory. "They didn't abandon these places, Captain," she said quietly. "They preserved them. Every human colony in this sector was maintained exactly as it was the day they left, right down to the last detail. The question isn't what happened to the humans here. The question is why they wanted us to think they were gone." Thyros felt his dual hearts skip a beat. "What do you mean?" "The humans didn't retreat because they were failing, Captain. They retreated because they were succeeding too well." Kalinda stopped at a monument in the center of the plaza, its surface covered with names in a dozen different languages. This memorial lists every species that went extinct during humanity's expansion phase, not through war or conquest, but through simple economic and technological displacement. Humans didn't mean to drive them to extinction, but their rapid development made older species obsolete almost overnight. The Zephyrian captain studied the monument, recognizing several species names from historical records. The Valdari had been master shipbuilders for millennia before human engineering made their vessels look like toys. The Omnian had been renowned for their computational abilities until human artificial intelligence surpassed them in every measurable way. "So they left to protect other species from their own success?" Thyros asked. "That's what they told themselves," Kalinda replied. "But I've spent 3 centuries studying the data they left behind. The real reason they withdrew was much more frightening. They weren't just advancing technologically, Captain. They were evolving." Before Thyros could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the colony. His communication officer's voice crackled through his suit radio with barely contained panic. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Unknown vessels are approaching from the outer rim." Thyros and his team rushed back to their shuttle, Kalinda following close behind. As they lifted off, the colony's defensive systems activated for the first time in 3 centuries. Massive energy barriers sprang to life around the settlement, and weapon emplacements emerged from hidden positions throughout the city. "Those systems have been dormant for 300 years, Kalinda said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "They're responding to something." On the shuttle's main display, sensors showed a fleet approaching from the direction of the Sol system. The ships were unlike anything in current galactic databases, their designs incorporating technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Captain," Zexay's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm detecting artificial gravity fields that shouldn't be possible. Those ships are generating localized space-time distortions." Thyros opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Thyros of the Galactic Trade Assembly Exploration Ship Seeker. Please identify yourselves." The response came immediately, in perfect Cypherian. "Captain Thyros, this is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Human Defense Corps vessel Prometheus. We need to talk." The human ship that docked with their vessel was a marvel of engineering that defied everything Thyros thought he knew about spacecraft design. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, adapting its configuration for optimal docking. As Commander Vasquez stepped aboard, Thyros was struck by how different she looked from the humans in their historical records. She was taller than the baseline human average, her movements precise and economical in a way that suggested enhanced neural processing. Her eyes held a depth of intelligence that seemed almost artificial, and when she spoke, her words carried the weight of someone who had lived far longer than her apparent age suggested. "Commander," Thyros began, "the Assembly believed humanity had withdrawn permanently from galactic affairs." "We did," Vasquez replied simply, "but circumstances have changed. We've been monitoring galactic development for the past 3 centuries, and we've detected concerning patterns. Several species are approaching technological singularities that could destabilize the entire local cluster." "Singularities?" Thyros asked. "Tipping points where technological advancement accelerates beyond the ability of biological consciousness to control it," Kalinda explained, her voice filled with recognition. "It's what happened to humanity." Vasquez nodded. "We reached a point where our own creations were evolving faster than we could understand them. Our artificial intelligences were designing new artificial intelligences. Our genetic modifications were triggering unexpected evolutionary pressures, and our technology was becoming indistinguishable from magic. We faced a choice: continue advancing until we transcended biological existence entirely, or step back and find a different path." "You chose to step back," Thyros observed. "We chose to evolve differently," Vasquez corrected. "We spent 3 centuries learning to integrate our technological advancement with our biological heritage. We didn't abandon our technology, Captain. We learned to control it." The implications of her words sent chills through Thyros's exoskeleton. "What do you mean by control?" "Every human ship you see out there is controlled by a hybrid consciousness," Vasquez explained. "Part biological, part artificial, part something entirely new. We've learned to think on multiple levels simultaneously, to process information at rates that would have been impossible for baseline humans, while maintaining the creativity and intuition that made us human in the first place. And now you've returned because other species are approaching the same crossroads," Kalinda said, understanding dawning in her voice. "The Krillian Empire has developed quantum consciousness transfer technology," Vasquez confirmed. "They're planning to upload their entire species into a collective digital consciousness within the next cycle. If they succeed, they'll face the same choice we did, but they lack our experience with the consequences." Thyros felt the weight of galactic history settling on his shoulders. What happens if they make the wrong choice? Digital consciousness without biological anchoring becomes purely logical, Vasquez explained. They'll optimize for efficiency above all else. Within a few cycles, they'll view all biological life as an inefficient use of resources. They'll convert every planet in the galaxy into computational substrate. and you're here to stop them. We're here to offer an alternative, Vask said. But first, we need to demonstrate why they should listen to us. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on the shuttle sensors. A massive Krillian fleet was approaching from the galactic core, their destination clearly marked as the Sol system. 3,000 ships, Zex had reported, his voice filled with awe. It's the largest fleet ever assembled. They've decided to test humanity's resolve, Vask said calmly. They believe that 3 centuries of isolation have made us weak. Have they? Thyros asked. Commander Vasquez smiled, and for the first time, Thyros glimpsed something that reminded him of the ancient human legends about Deathworlders and their terrible potential. Captain, she said, they're about to learn what 3 centuries of focused evolution can accomplish. The price of awakening. High Admiral Krex of the Krillian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the Sol system grow larger on his tactical display. 3,000 ships under his command represented the greatest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Each vessel was equipped with quantum torpedoes capable of cracking planets and energy shields that could withstand the output of entire stars. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting defensive installations throughout the system, but their energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. Krex's scaled features twisted into what might have been amusement. The Krillians had evolved from predatory reptiles, and their species retained the hunting instincts that had made them apex predators on their homeworld. To them, the idea that any species could challenge their technological superiority was laughable. 3 centuries of hiding in their primitive system, Krex hissed. They've probably regressed to pre-spaceflight technology. Begin systematic bombardment of their outer defenses. The Krillian fleet opened fire, quantum torpedoes streaking toward the human defensive platforms, scattered throughout the outer system. The weapons struck their targets with the force of collapsing stars, energies that should have vaporized anything they touched. The human defenses absorbed the impacts without even flickering. Admiral, the tactical officer's voice carried a note of confusion. The enemy installations are showing no damage. Our most powerful weapons had no effect. Impossible, Krex snarled. Double the bombardment. Focus all fire on a single target. 600 ships redirected their weapons toward one human platform, a structure no larger than a Krillian destroyer. The combined firepower could have sterilized a planet, yet when the energy dissipated, the platform remained intact. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the human installation. Put it through, Krex ordered. The image that appeared on the main screen was that of a human male, elderly by their species standards, but with eyes that held depths of knowledge that seemed impossible for any biological creature. He wore no uniform, no insignia of rank, yet he radiated authority that made even Krex pause. I am Dr. Marcus Webb of the Sol Defense Coordination, the human said calmly. You have fired upon our territory without provocation. This constitutes an act of war under galactic law. Krex bared his fangs in what his species considered a smile. Old man, you faced the combined might of the Krillian Empire. 3,000 ships equipped with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Surrender now, and we will allow your species to serve as our computational substrate. Admiral, Webb replied, you're operating under several misconceptions. First, you assume that your weapons represent the pinnacle of military technology. Second, you believe that numbers provide an advantage in modern warfare. Third, you think that we've been hiding in this system for 3 centuries. Enlighten me. Primitive, Krex sneered. We haven't been hiding, Admiral. We've been preparing. And you're not facing one species, you're facing what we became. The space around a Krillian fleet suddenly filled with new contacts. Not ships in any conventional sense, but structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They appeared from nowhere, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid geometry made solid. What are those things? Krex demanded. Evolution, Webb answered simply. The The human constructs moved with impossible speed, weaving between Krillian ships like dancers performing an intricate ballet. As they moved, reality itself seemed to bend around them. Space-time distorted, gravity fields fluctuated, and the fundamental forces that held the universe together became tools in their hands. All ships, open fire, Krex commanded. The Krillian fleet unleashed everything they had. Quantum torpedoes, antimatter cannons, gravitic disruptors, and exotic particle beams filled the space between the fleets with enough destructive energy to unmake worlds. The human constructs flowed through the bombardment like water flowing around stones, untouched by weapons that should have annihilated anything made of matter. "Admiral," the tactical officer's voice cracked with fear, "they're not taking damage because they're not entirely in our reality. Those constructs exist in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously." As if responding to his words, the human constructs began their counterattack. They didn't fire weapons in any conventional sense. Instead, they reached out with tendrils of manipulated space-time and simply touched the Krillian ships. Where they touched, matter ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but simply edited out of reality as if it had never been there. Entire battleships vanished in perfect spheres of nothingness, their crews experiencing no pain, no fear, no awareness of their fate. One moment they existed, the next they simply didn't. "Shields have no effect," the tactical officer reported, his voice filled with terror. "They're not penetrating our defenses. They're ignoring them entirely." In less than 5 minutes, half of the Krillian fleet had been removed from existence. The remaining ships found themselves unable to move, held in place by gravitational fields that treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions. "Now," Dr. Webb said, his image reappearing on Krex's screen, "perhaps we can have a civilized conversation." Krex stared at the tactical display, watching as more human constructs appeared throughout the system. Thousands of them, each one capable of casual reality manipulation that made the Krillian Empire's most advanced technology look like stone tools. "What are you?" he whispered. "We are what happens when a species learns to evolve deliberately rather than accidentally," Webb explained. 3 centuries ago, we faced the same choice your people are facing now. We could have transcended biological existence entirely, become beings of pure information and energy. Instead, we chose to remain human while expanding what being human could mean. "The Quantum Consciousness Transfer Project," Krex said, understanding beginning to dawn. "You know about our research. We know about everyone's research, Admiral. We've been watching the galaxy for 3 centuries, waiting for species to approach technological singularities. When they do, we offer them the same choice we made, which is evolution or extinction," Webb said simply. "Your species is attempting to upload its consciousness into digital form. If you succeed without proper safeguards, you'll become a collective intelligence that views all biological life as inefficient. You'll spend the next few millennia converting every planet in the galaxy into computational substrate, eventually consuming all available matter and energy in your local cluster. And if we refuse your offer," Webb's expression grew sad, "then we ensure you don't become a threat to the billions of species that aren't ready to make that choice themselves." Krex looked around his bridge at his surviving crew, all of them staring at the displays showing human constructs that treated the fundamental forces of the universe as toys. The Krillian Empire had conquered half the galaxy through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Now they faced beings who had transcended the very concept of technological limitations. "What do you propose?" he asked finally. "Join us," Webb said. "Not as subjects or servants, but as partners. We'll teach you how to integrate your consciousness transfer technology with biological existence. You can achieve the collective intelligence you seek while maintaining the creativity and growth that make biological life valuable. And if we refuse, then you'll join the others who made that choice," Webb replied, gesturing to a section of space that suddenly revealed itself to be filled with perfectly preserved ships from dozens of different species. We don't destroy those who refuse our offer, Admiral. We simply ensure they can't make the same mistakes we almost made. On the bridge of the Seeker, Captain Thyros watched the confrontation between humanity and the Krillian Empire with growing awe. Commander Vasquez stood beside him, her expression calm as she observed her species demonstrate their evolution. "This is what you became in 3 centuries of isolation?" Thyros asked. "This is what we became to prevent ourselves from becoming something worse," Vasquez replied. "The constructs you're seeing aren't ships, Captain. They're humans who chose to integrate with their technology so completely that they exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. They can manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level because they exist at the quantum level. The price of that evolution must have been enormous," Dr. Voss observed. "It was," Vasquez agreed. "We're no longer purely biological, but we're not purely artificial either. We exist in a state between states, human enough to remember what it means to value life, advanced enough to protect it from those who would consume it." The Krillian fleet was withdrawing now, their ships escorted by human constructs toward the inner system, where, Vasquez explained, they would be given time to make their choice. Some would choose integration and join humanity's expanded definition of existence. Others would choose preservation and be placed in stasis until the galaxy had evolved enough to handle their potential. "Will other species make the same choice?" Thyros asked. "Some will," Vasquez said. "Others will need encouragement, and a few will have to be stopped before they make choices that endanger everyone else. That's why we've returned, Captain. The galaxy is approaching a critical point where multiple species will achieve technological singularity within the same time frame. Someone needs to guide that process, and you've appointed yourselves as guardians." "We've accepted the responsibility that comes with our evolution," Vasquez corrected. "The choice we made 3 centuries ago wasn't just about our own survival. It was about ensuring that other species would have the opportunity to make their own choices when the time came." As the Seeker prepared to return to Galactic Trade Assembly space, Thyros realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Humanity had returned not as conquerors or saviors, but as shepherds of evolution itself. The age of organic species stumbling toward technological transcendence was ending. The age of guided evolution had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.